Okay, so welcome to this one, guys. Lovely day today, isn't it? I don't know if maybe if you're watching this back on the recording, it might not be such a lovely day. But for those that are watching this live, great day, lovely weather, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running through a business administrator virtual open event. So here, the main purpose of it, which I'm going to kind of run through this section here. So the event breakdown. Firstly, we're going to have a look at what an apprenticeship is, and then it's going to focus more into the business administrator apprenticeship. So we're going to have a look at the role of a business administrator within 2021, and then we're going to have a look at future career pathways of a business administrator. So not just being a business administrator, what can happen in the future, what career pathways does that entail and open up for the individual. We're also going to have a look at the earning potential as well. We're going to have a look at some mean average salaries for business administrators, and also if you go down set different career pathways, what those earning potentials could turn into as well. And then we're going to have a look at what makes a good business administrator too. So for anybody looking at potentially getting into a career as a business administrator, we're going to have a look at what kind of characteristics and behaviors that are suited to that career. We're also going to have a little, it's not in the bullet points here, but we're also going to have a little look at apprenticeships and apprenticeships incentives that are available for employers. So if employers are looking to take on an apprentice, a business administrator apprentice, for example, what incentives are there from the government to allow you to do so? And then finally, we're then going to have a look at opening up for a Q&A. So if anybody does have any questions, obviously type the questions into the comments section if you do have any, and then I'll pick up the answers at the end. Well, I'll have a look at taking care of some of the answers for questions that come up at the end of it. So again, yeah, if you do have any questions throughout this virtual event, put it in, add a comment. Don't be scared, put a comment in there. Alternatively, if you're a little bit anxious, you don't want people to see that you're asking questions about this stuff, just like the Velocity page and give us a direct message if you're either looking for an apprenticeship or potentially if you're looking to take on an apprentice. If you're a business owner, you want to take advantage of the incentives at the moment and you want to take on an apprentice, by all means, feel free to drop the Velocity Academy page a message. Okay, so we'll have a look at getting started with today's event. So a bit of a welcome and a little bit about myself as well. So I'm not that egotistical. I'm not going to stick on this slide for forever. But myself, I'm Ben Newbold, Managing Director of Velocity Academy. I started Velocity Academy in 2014. And yeah, I am a lifelong apprentice, should I say. So I've just got listed there the different apprenticeships that I have done during my career, and kind of like as to where I am now. So actually leaving school when I was 16 years old, I was quite fortunate enough to be selected to do an apprenticeship, a football apprenticeship through York City. So a youth football apprenticeship. They used to be called a YTS scheme. But now they're just known as football apprentices. So straight into the under-18s there, and you do a form of education whilst you are working as such, playing football, and that's my advanced apprenticeship in sporting excellence. There, it took 2 years to get. Unfortunately, after 2 years, didn't get kept on, didn't get given further contracts or anything. So therefore, found myself getting into the world of business, and then straight directly after. The next apprenticeship that I went on to after that was a business administrator one. So I have been, what I'm talking about today, I am going to give you a good wider understanding of business administration and just understand that this comes from myself, being a business administrator, studying that pathway and working my way through the different career guidance. I've also done a digital marketer, data analyst, and a level 5 management apprenticeships as well. And also SEMA management accountant, but that is not an apprenticeship pathway that I studied that on. That's just myself being a little bit of a geek and wanting to understand that a little bit more. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. Majority of those that are on there are all the apprenticeships that I've done in the past. So just any questions on apprenticeships, feel free to ask me, because I've got ample experience there in order to answer them. So the first question that we have here is, what is an apprenticeship? So an apprenticeship, it is a full-time job, but you are gaining a qualification at the same time. Now, you would combine the actual job that you have. So let's say, for example, if you were an apprentice business administrator working in an office for a law firm, you'll be working in that law firm 5 days a week, but you will also have training and a qualification combined with that actual job work that you're doing. And this is, I'm going to run through it in a couple more slides, but that's where we talk about 20%. So the 20% rule, you're 80% of the time you're actually working, you're doing your job description role, and then the other 20% you are spending time on your academic studies. And that's basically what combines an apprenticeship. And it's quite beneficial in the sense of that you are getting paid for your job. You're getting paid for the role that you are doing within that organization, whilst also gaining an academic accredited qualification. Now, if you were to spin that on its head and think of college and university, unless you kind of work your fingers to the bone, you're not really going to be able to balance the two of them. You're not going to be able to pull in a nice annual salary whilst gaining a qualification at the same time if you were to go to college full-time, for example, because you'd be having to arrange your shifts in and around that college pattern. And university as well. So again, you'll see a lot of university students that they would have to work around their studies in order to take on their university qualification. Whereas an apprenticeship, you don't have that worry. 80% of the time is actually on the job, and then 20% of the time is dedicated to your academic studies. And believe it or not, you get paid for that 20% as well. That 20% of time that you're actually studying, you're also getting paid. So that is the beauty of an apprenticeship. It allows you to combine both the academic studying and the on-the-job working together. And with apprenticeships, there don't just have to be lower level qualifications that you study. You can see there, I've completed a foundation degree apprenticeship, and that was in management, operational management. So apprenticeships are, you can step scale your apprenticeships. There are some level 7 apprenticeships out there. There are master's levels apprenticeships out there that you can look to undertake, albeit that you need to be within a certain occupational competency in order to do it. Not just anybody can go straight onto it. You need to get to the point in able to be able to meet the entry requirements for them. But this is where we talk about career pathways. So you can start out at a level 3, move on to a level 4, move on to a level 5, and then progressively keep working your way up the career ladder and the academic ladder at the same time. Now, apprenticeships, they can take between 1 to 6 years to complete as well. So those higher level apprenticeships, those degree level apprenticeships, they will take a little bit longer to complete. As you would imagine, a normal university academic qualification would take a number of years to complete. And with an apprenticeship, you will earn a wage, and you will earn at least the national minimum wage whilst you train. So the benefits of an apprenticeship, I've already kind of gone to town on these already, but just a kind of bullet point though. So you get paid whilst you learn, you gain skills which can then be applied to your role. Your employer pays for your training for you. The majority of the training fees are covered by the government, but elsewhere the actual apprentice is not having to physically dig into their wallet or purse and pay for their academic tuition, much like if you were to go to university. An apprenticeship, it is funded via the employer and the government. You can dedicate 20% of your time working towards your qualification. So again, this is that 20% rule that I've talked about. So if, for example, you work a normal 9 to 5, 5 days a week job, 1 day a week, which would be 20% of your contracted hours, can be dedicated to your apprenticeship studies. So this is where you may attend class. This is where you may attend online training. You may do a little bit of work towards your qualification. That is a massive benefit to an apprenticeship there, and actually breeds a better work-life balance when you are looking to complete an academic qualification at the same time. And you can upskill or develop in your current role in order to progress your career. So when I talk about these career pathways, you don't just have to do a role at work and then just hope that if you stick in that role for a certain amount of years, you may get a promotion. You can look to undertake an apprenticeship that gains you the skills and really pushes your knowledge and skill set in order to then be in contention for those promotions. So that's a really good benefit of an apprenticeship again there. So what does an apprenticeship actually look like? Now, I've created this little graphic here, and I always call this, we do this on an onboarding session with apprentices, and this is what I call the driving test analogy. So this is what modern day apprenticeships now look like. Apprenticeships around about 4 to 5 years ago, they went through quite a large reform. So old school apprenticeships are totally different to apprenticeships now. If you were to enroll onto an apprenticeship now, how I would, because I've delivered both of them, how I would explain and describe apprenticeships now compared to what they were like 4 to 5 years ago are that modern day apprenticeships are a hell of a lot more academic. You will actually genuinely be learning stuff, and this is sometimes where apprenticeships got a little bit of a bad rap in the past, because essentially they were tick box exercises. Show me how you do this, show me how you do that, and then no end exam, for example. Whereas now apprenticeships, they totally tore that rule book up. They created a new modern day apprenticeship, which is now called a standard. And the best way to describe those standards are this driving test analogy that we have here. So modern day apprenticeships are very similar to the process of how you learn how to drive, okay? So let me describe that to you. So when you learn how to drive, essentially you learn the theory of it. You then get in the car, and the driving instructor teaches you how to do roundabouts, how to reverse around a corner, how to parallel park. So that is all your on-the-job training. And then when you get to the end, you are then passed on to an independent examiner. So your driving instructor doesn't do your end exams with you, because that'd be a conflict of interest, right? You are then handed on to an independent examiner, and then this independent examiner then deems if you are actually competent to drive or not. That is very, very similar to modern day apprenticeships now. So with modern day apprenticeships, you first start out with your onboarding onto your apprenticeship. This is where you learn about the apprenticeship program, much similar to like a theory assessment that you would do when you're learning how to drive. You then have your on-program learning. So this is the main component of your apprenticeship, and this is the part of your apprenticeship that you actually will be on it for the longest term. So this is when you're with your training provider, and your training provider's teaching you all of the knowledge, skills, and behaviors required in order for you to get ready for your end exams, much like a driving test. So like when you're learning how to drive, your driving examiner, they'll sit down with you in the car, show you which way that you need to look at a roundabout, how to use your indicators, when to look in your mirrors. And that's very similar to an apprenticeship now. So this will be at least a minimum of 12 months and a week. So 53 weeks is a minimum duration time for this main component here. When you get to the end, so when your apprenticeship tutor or your driving instructor, in the example, deems that you are ready and deems that you are ready to go for your end exams, you will then be put forward onto something called endpoint assessment. And it's this endpoint assessment now which really makes modern day apprenticeships different to apprenticeships 4 to 5 years ago. Because apprenticeships 4 to 5 years ago, it was all more or less sacrilege if you were to do an end exam, or to do a theory-based exam, or to do some form of academic pass or fail exam at the end of it. Whereas now, with standards, there are these pass or fail situations, which all of a sudden makes these apprenticeships pull the socks up. You need to learn on these apprenticeships now. You actually need to learn the knowledge, you need to learn skills, and you need to develop behaviors in order to be able to then pass these end exams. So an independent assessor such as like an independent driving test examiner, would come from the awarding body, and they will complete these end exams with you. So that's what a modern day apprenticeship now looks like. You have a start, you have the main component, the middle, and then you have the end exams. So yeah, that's how apprenticeships are now different and better in my opinion. If you were to ask, like when this initially came out, a lot of colleges, training providers are quite scared because they thought it'll put people off apprenticeships. But the main reason why this change came about was to develop the apprentices' knowledge, skills, and behaviours even more, because everybody studies a lot harder when you have end exams to work towards now. And what we'll get as an output of that is basically better qualified apprentices will come at the end of apprenticeships now because of this model. Okay, so who is an apprenticeship for? So apprenticeships are available to anybody over the age of 16, and also you need to be living in England. Unfortunately, if you live in Wales or if you live in Scotland, there's a different apprenticeship scheme within those local demographics. So for an English apprenticeship, you would need to be living in England, and you need to be age 16 or over. And the beauty of them as well is that there's no upper age limit. So there is usually a bit of a stigma that apprentices apprentices are young, apprentices are straight out of school. Well, guess what? I'm an apprentice, and I'm also an operational manager. So I studied a higher degree level apprenticeship. Doesn't necessarily mean I have to be 16 to do that. And also, you would not see 16-year-olds go on to that apprenticeship program either, because they will not have the occupational competences to be able to go onto it. So apprenticeships are there, remember, to help develop people's and individuals' career pathways. That's what apprenticeships are there to do. And I've just got here as well, like news alert, you do not have to be young to be an apprentice. At the start of this webinar, I did say that I'm a career learner, I'm a career apprentice, and I will always be progressing my knowledge and skills via apprenticeships, because A, it don't cost me a penny to do, and B, it allows me to be focused on where I want to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. It gives me a clear progressive route on how I'm going to develop my skills and my knowledge as an individual. So yeah, an apprenticeship is literally for anybody who is age 16 or over and living in England. Now, just be aware as well, in order to undertake an apprenticeship, you need an employer in order to do it with. So if you're currently unemployed, you would need to find a role in order to do an apprenticeship. So therefore, you would need to apply for jobs. And this is, again, where Velocity can help, because we liaise with employers. We have many relationships with different employers in and around England. And we have apprenticeship vacancies, apprenticeship jobs available for people if you are wanting to undertake an apprenticeship, but you don't necessarily have an employer to do it with at the moment. So be sure to go onto our website and to have a look at the vacancies tab on our website. And we do have vacancies available if you are currently unemployed and wanting to undertake an apprenticeship. So now covered apprenticeship, we're going to look into the actual meat of what this webinar is about, which is dedicated to an actual business administrator. So what is the role of a business administrator? Well, a business administrator is a very transferable role, okay? They are very, very important for organizations, because they allow organizations to ensure that administrative practices and processes are being done when you may then have strategic people within higher management creating plans, and then the business administrators can also help them in creating those plans and following them through. So business administrators have highly transferable sets of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that can be applied to all sectors. And you would find this. We deal with a number of different business administrators in a massive variety of different employers and sectors. So to give you an example, we have business administrator apprentices within law firms. So as you can imagine, there'll be a lot of administrative processes and tasks within that law firm. So therefore, business administrators help them. To give you another example as well, within renewable energy, we have business administrators within organizations that deal with renewable energy, and they help them out with their administrative processes and tasks. And again, just to give you another example, the final one I'm going to give you, we have business administrators within financial employers. So employers that are accountants, they would have business administrators to help them out with their accountancy practices. So examples of employers, it could be small employers, it could literally be an employer looking to grow. So it could be a sole trader and they're wanting to grow, they're needing help with their invoicing and they're needing help with their different business processes. So therefore, they can have a look at taking on a business administrator apprentice to help them out with that. And also large businesses as well. So it's both small and large businesses, and business administrators are also within the public sector and the private sector and charitable sectors as well. So what would a business administrator do? So they would look to support and engage with different parts of the organizations. And what you'll find is everything that I'm saying here is very generic. And the reason for that is just because of how sector diverse business administrators are. You could be a business administrator within loads of different sectors, and therefore those sectors would have different processes. But the main role is to support and engage with the different parts of the organization, so to help the organization. You would also interact with internal and external customers. So you may be working with customers that are external to the organization. So these could be suppliers, these could be actual customers walking through the door and looking to make a purchase. But you'll also be dealing with internal stakeholders as well. So people within the wider organization, people within different teams, people within different sections of the organization. Business administrators will also look to resolve any issues as well. So you'll look to problem solve almost at times. And also you'll just look to contribute to improving the overall efficiency of the business. And we do find that quite a lot. So if we're working with an employer or an organization that's going through a growth phase, usually 9 times out of 10, they're just doing they're to the point of doing business critical things at that point. Therefore, when they look to bring in a business administrator apprentice, this administrator apprentice takes on all of those roles and tasks that were quite time consuming, and then finds better ways in how to do it, just because the person that was dealing with that and also juggling loads of other roles at the same time doesn't necessarily have a lot of time to think about how they can do things quickly because there's 101 plates that are spinning at the same time. Whereas this business administrator apprentice would then come in, they will learn how to do the processes, and then over time find out more efficient ways of doing those processes. So actually they can improve the overall efficiency of the organization then. So where do I find an apprenticeships? I've already kind of covered this a little bit, mentioning that you can look to find apprenticeships on the Velocity website, but there are also some other areas where you may be able to find apprenticeships as well. So there is a government website. So there is an apprenticeship finder service on the government website. So if you were to look at what apprenticeship that if you're interested in a business administrator apprenticeship, for example, you can go onto the government website, type in business administrator apprenticeships, also change the filter to what demographic that you're looking for it in, and then it will find different apprenticeships for you. You will also be able to find apprenticeships on job boards as well. So just ensure that when you are looking for a role on the job board, you are putting the term apprenticeship in there. So if you're looking for a business administrator apprenticeship, make sure that you use the STEM word apprenticeship after it. And then what you will find is loads of different apprenticeships that will then come up. And finally, the Velocity Academy website as well. Now, you'll see a couple different company logos that I've got there. Now, these different company logos are actually organizations that take on business administrator apprentices. And I've selected these logos for a reason, because these aren't the only ones, by the way. These are just ones that I've hand selected to put onto this presentation. And the reason why I've put these on is A, because hopefully you'll recognize a couple of them, and B, these organizations actually helped develop the apprenticeship standard. So if you imagine it, everybody, so individuals from these organizations will have got around a big round table and then said, right, okay, so what should a business administrator be able to do? What should they do? And then between them, they came up with the syllabus for the business administrator apprenticeship. So yeah, I just thought that'd be a nice little bit of knowledge for you guys to take away from that, that these organizations here, they all kind of help develop the syllabus for the business administrator apprenticeship. So next we're going to move on to the this section, which is where we're looking at the future opportunities for a business administrator. And these are the opportunities available at Velocity Academy. So what a business administrator apprenticeship is that it can be a really, really great entry-level apprenticeship program. And that's not to downplay it. What I mean by that is you get embedded into a role, you get embedded into an employer and an organization, and then once you complete your apprenticeship in business administration, you will then be able to have a look at different progressive career routes thereafter. And these are just 3 of them that Velocity Academy offers. So the 3 different progressive career routes that we have available for business administrators are that you could look at a career within upper management. So if you're a business administrator and you find in your role being quite responsible, so if you're helping other new apprentices and help training them up within your organization, you could potentially then look at a future in management. So we have these management career pathways available where you can then complete your business administrator apprenticeship, enroll straight onto a team leader supervisor apprenticeship, and then once completed that, then look at an operational departmental manager apprenticeship, which is a level 5 one. So you're looking at foundation degree level 1 there. So you can see there the different career routes. That's just the management one. If you're finding within your business administrator apprenticeship, you are helping and dealing with a lot of marketing stuff. So you are creating quite a lot of infographics, you're creating leaflets, you're creating social media posts, or maybe editing the website. You could then look at a progressive career in marketing. So you could then potentially go on to a level 3 digital marketer apprenticeship, and then that'll further push and develop your online skills. And then from there, you could then, once you've completed your digital marketer apprenticeship, look to complete a level 6 digital marketer degree. So again, you can do that through an apprenticeship. So you can see there a nice clear career progression pathway that you have available there in marketing. And then the final one is if you're currently within a business administrator apprenticeship role and you are finding yourself dealing with a lot of data. So if you're dealing with a lot of spreadsheets and you're crunching these data and putting them within a database, and then you're gaining experience of that database, you could then look at a career within data. So we can see a progressive pathway there of once you've completed your business administrator apprenticeship, moving into a data technician apprenticeship. Once you've completed, then move into a data analyst apprenticeship. And this is quite an exciting career pathway because as time progresses, as we're finding technology is developing, everybody is dealing with masses and masses amount of data now, and how you can delve into that data can really give you the edge within a business sector. So they are 3 clear progressive career pathways that you have available just from your business administrator apprenticeship. So what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is don't just think, right, I'm just going to be a business administrator. Think big, think strategic, think long term. Right, this is a great entry level apprenticeship to start with. Where can that then take me? And the answer to that is pretty far when you look at these different apprenticeship opportunities available. So what would the earning potential be for a business administrator. So what we've done here is we've had a look at the total job salary checker, and we've punched it in for a business administrator, and it's showing that the average earning potential is around the 23k a year mark for a business administrator roles. Now, take that with a pinch of salt, because as you can see there, the lowest was 17,000, the highest was 32,500. But you can see once you're embedded within a business administrator role, you can look to live comfortably on that £23,000 a year. But what happens then if you follow one of these career pathways? So again, what we've done here is I've just taken that matrix from the earlier slide, and then I've shown you if you were to develop and if you were to grow your knowledge, skills, and behaviors within each of these different pathways, the earning potentials that you could potentially be pulling down when you are either a fully qualified operational manager, or a degree level digital marketer, or a data analyst. So that just kind of gives you a good insight into what those different career pathways then, even though you may be starting out at 23k for your business administrator role, when you then look to develop your knowledge and skills over the years of these apprenticeship models, you can then see the future earning potentials that you could then be pulling down. So again, this information and this data is from Total Job Salary Checker, where it's kind of taken a sample size of a group and looked at the average earnings of that group within the UK. Okay, guys. So what makes a good business administrator? Well, if you're looking to go for a business administrator apprenticeship role, so if you're actually wanting to pursue a job, you're currently unemployed and you want to get into an apprenticeship, ensure that you have these skills highlighted within your CV or covering letter, because this is what employers look out for. They want to know, do you have any IT skills? So can you, for example, can you use the basic Microsoft Office suite? It's not that employers will understand when they take on an apprentice, you are not going to come with the full knowledge of Sage accounting softwares. Like, I mean, that is really specific, and you will not know that unless you've worked on that system before. So even if you don't have that, just ensure that on your CV and within your covering letter, you're bigging up your own skills. I mean, sometimes what we find now are that individuals take for granted that they know how to use Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word and PowerPoint softwares. Well, actually, don't just presume that the employer knows that you know that, because they're judging you off what the sheet of paper tells them. So ensure that you put in those within it, even if it sounds a little bit basic for you. Give examples of decision making when you've shown good judgment in your CV and covering letter. Ensure that you're also mentioning that you have interpersonal skills, that you can work with other people, you can develop and maintain relationships with other people. Maybe give a couple of examples of that. Show that you're organized. Give examples of when you've met deadlines on projects. And also show that you're professional, that you encourage diversity within a working environment, and also that you are responsible as well. And responsibility is really, like, especially for what I look for, responsibility is a really key area, because you need to be able to be responsible for your own work, but also the wider team's work as well, because a business administrator supports the wider team. You're not working alone. You're not a lawyer. You're not a solicitor. It's not like your judgment, and then if you lose, it's just yourself. You are working for the wider team. You're part of a team, so you need to be able to take responsibility for team effort and work. Okay, fantastic. So we've covered a little bit around business administrators and what their roles are, what the current earning potentials are, what apprenticeships are as well. And then we're now going to have a look at what employers can do. So currently at the moment, post-pandemic recovery stimulus package that's being given by the Chancellor, they've really looked to ramp up employer incentives to take on apprentices. And the main reason for that is because apprenticeships are a fantastic way of getting people back into work and education. So we've all seen it. We've all seen the news, and we've seen that unemployment rates are going to be high. And when furlough packages unfortunately come to the end, they're only going to get higher. So therefore, there's going to be a pool of talent out there that need to get back into work and education. They cannot become lost. So what the government have then done is that they have created these incentive packages for employers to take on apprentices. So this first bullet point here, if an employer takes on an apprentice aged between 16 and 18 years of age, the employer will get £4,000 incentive from the government to take that apprentice on. So that's £4,000, which is unheard of almost within our sector. So if you look at it this way, if you were to use a recruitment agency to look to take on an individual, you'd probably pay a recruitment agency that. Whereas when you take an apprentice on, there's no recruitment agency fees. Plus also you're actually getting money to take them on as well. And that's a 16 to 18-year-old. Now, from an employer's point of view, you may be like, well, actually, I don't want a 16 to 18-year-old. I maybe want to look for somebody that has a little bit more experience, that has some skills within a certain specific area. Well, again, the government have an incentive there in order to allow you to do that. So if you are an employer and you take on an apprentice aged 19 years of age or older, so we're talking 19 years of age to unlimited years of age. It could be somebody at 55 with 25 years experience within the sector that you're currently working in, and you enroll them onto an apprenticeship program, you will get £3,000 incentive for taking that employee or apprentice on. They only need to be on an apprenticeship program. So this is where your higher level apprenticeship programs may come into play, because if you are getting a 35-year-old that's already worked 15 years within your sector and they're coming in at managerial level, instead of paying a recruitment agency £3,000 to bring in that person, you could actually get £3,000 from the government and not pay any recruitment fees for finding an individual at managerial level. And then their skills and knowledge will then be progressed by enrolling onto a higher level apprenticeship degree program. So can you see how it's basically a win-win package here for employers? So so it doesn't have to be somebody entry level. It doesn't necessarily have to be individuals leaving school, leaving college just for apprenticeships. It could be the much more mature demographic as well. So yeah, they are the incentives available for employers to take on apprentices. And just a caveat to that as well, the incentives, they're paid in 2 installments. So your 50% of the incentive, so let's say you take on a 16 to 18-year-old, £2,000 will be paid to you 3 months into the apprenticeship program from the government. And then the other 50%, the final £2,000 installment, will then be paid to you at month 12 of the apprenticeship program. The reasoning for that is obviously because they don't want employers to take on an apprentice, take on the incentive, and then sack the apprentice. And if I'm being perfectly honest, Velocity Academy, if we catch any wind of any employers doing that, we will cease working with you as well, because that's irresponsible. That's people, you're playing with people's lives at the end of the day. So you want to ensure that an apprentice is correct for your organization. You want to ensure that you're giving them dedicated time in order to allow them to upgrade their knowledge, skills, and behaviors, because that's the whole reason why these incentives are there, to get people back into work and education and to develop their career pathways. So yeah, they are the employer incentives that are available. If you would like more information on employer incentives in how you can take on an apprentice in 2021 and onwards, just feel free. I mean, go to the Velocity Academy website, fill in a contact form, maybe put a question in at the bottom of this webinar that you're watching at the moment, and we can have a look at getting back to you, and we can help out and look to see how we can develop and grow your organization and grow the skills of your employees in your organization when you're taking on an apprentice. And yes, this is basically the call to action at the end of the webinar. So if you are interested in hiring, look to contact info@velocity-pt.co.uk, send that an email, and then one of our apprenticeship team will be able to talk to you and talk through the recruitment process, because we will recruit the apprentice, we will hire, we will find somebody for you, place them into your role, into your available role. And I just want to mention as well, that is totally free of charge. You're not paying any recruitment fee, you're not paying any finder's fee. If anything, you are getting paid your incentive from the government in order to take somebody on an apprenticeship. Now, that's for employers. If you are looking to take an apprenticeship, so if you're interested in being an apprentice and you want to progress your career through one of these study programs, contact the following email address that we have here, which is candidates@velocity-pt.co.uk. And then one of our placement teams, one of our placement advisors, will be in contact with you, and we'll be able to discuss our current live vacancies that we have available. And hopefully maybe one of them will look to be able to be matched with you. Okay, guys. Well, I believe that is more or less getting towards the end of it. There is just a final slide here. So we've talked about hiring new apprentices. We've talked about the incentives enable there for taking on new apprentices. But you can also just upskill your current employees onto apprenticeship as well. So if you have somebody working in your finance department, and you think, right, actually I want to develop them, I want them to become my finance manager almost, or team leader, you can then look to place that individual that's still working in your organization. They may have been working in your organization for the last 5 years. You can still put them on an apprenticeship program and develop their knowledge and skills on a managerial apprenticeship that we have available. So yeah, you can upskill current employees onto apprenticeship programs. And the benefits of upskilling current staff members are that you're future-proofing your organization, you're investing into more loyal team members, so they will actually be able to see that my employer is investing into my career. They're wanting me to progress almost. And you're also creating a clear career pathway for your employees as well. So if you do find a talent within your current employee pool that you're like, right, okay, I can see you potentially being a manager in the future, you can look to enroll them onto a team leader supervisor apprenticeship program, and then they will then develop those skills and knowledge over time in order to then be in a position to take on that role when it occurs. Also, the same could be within our digital marketing and our data analyst programs that we deliver as well. And you will build a modern workforce, because everything that you're getting taught on these apprenticeship programs are up-to-date information from the syllabus. So just to give you an example, the digital apprenticeships that we deliver, these syllabuses get changed very regularly, because IT and tech is changing very regularly. So therefore, all of the current new software, standards, processes, and everything that is getting delivered on these apprenticeship programs within digital is up-to-date accredited skills that you're gaining. And that's the same across the board within our business apprenticeships and also within our health and fitness apprenticeships as well. So if you are interested in upskilling any of your current employees onto an apprenticeship, feel free, look to contact the email address that we have there in the orange bubble, info@velocity-pt.co.uk, and one of our team members will be able to advise you on upskilling current employees, and we will be able to advise on what potential apprenticeship program may be best suited to their job role and the vision for what their job role may be in the future. Okay, guys, so I believe that kind of leaves the floor to any questions. So what we'll do is, if there are any questions, we'll have a look within the comments section, and I'll use this time wisely to potentially look to answer any of them. If there are not any questions though, and any do come up in the future, look to email that email address there, and we will definitely be excited to get back to you and help you out with apprenticeships. So thank you very much for attending, everybody, and watching. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and feel free, go into our website if you want to learn more information about apprenticeships and how they can affect your organisation. Alternatively, feel free to also have a look at our social media platforms, where you can like, subscribe, or follow the pages to then keep up to date with any new incentive schemes by the government to help recruit and upskill employees that are either currently working for you or future employees that you're wishing to take on. Okay, guys, well, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you have been able to take away some information from this webinar.